We're returning to Genesis chapter 49, and we'll start in verse 28. And I'll read it out of a passage that we're all familiar with. And it is as follows. It says, all these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it that their father spake unto them and blessed them, every one according to his blessing. He blessed them. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham brought with the field of Ephraim the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost and was gathered unto his people. Let's hear it from a slightly different translation. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is how their father spoke to them and blessed them, giving each his own individual blessing. Then he charged them as follows. I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite. The cave in the field of Machpelah by Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham brought together with the field from Ephraim the Hittite as a burial place belonging to him, his wife Rivkah, and I also buried Leah. The field and the cave in it, which was purchased from the sons of Heth. When Yaakov had finished charging his sons, he drew his legs up into the bed, breathed his last breath, and was gathered to his people. You know, a lot has happened in this past week, and we've got good news. I remember reading about some good news with Brother Hawkins. And my brother had a medical procedure, and he's doing well. I spoke to him this morning. My sister-in-law is recovering from pneumonia, and a first cousin is in MCV, and he's recovering, doing nicely. So it's been an interesting week for a lot of us. And I want to dissect a little bit more about what it was that Jacob, or Israel, actually it was Israel, said to his sons before he passed away. You know, we read in both translations it said, and he blessed them, and he blessed them. But he charged them also. And we remember from times past, in the beginning it said, and Jacob said, my sons, and I'm paraphrasing, basically, come to me because Israel, which is Jacob, which is the name change that the Most High gave Jacob because there was a change in his character. See, a lot of us, we change our names to whatever's sometimes maybe hip, or we think it has a certain type of sound. And I mean, anybody can do it. You pay $150 and you can be called whatever you paid the $150 for. But the difference is a lot of times sometimes we make changes, and sometimes it may be changes to our outward appearance. But changes that are outside, they're okay because I guess people can see the change on the outside. If some of the fellas, if we continue going to the gym and get buff and maybe rediscover that 6-pack or 8-pack if we can still get it, you can see the change. But when Jacob said to his sons, let Israel's got some things to say to you. That was the new Jacob, the new and improved Jacob. And so, yes, he did. He blessed them. He complimented them all. But in the areas, and see, this is what's key. We had an honest moment this morning with the Most High, and I heard what was said, and there was a lot more that was said than what we heard. When Jacob called his sons to come to him, and they came to him one at a time, and Israel began to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now he loved all his sons. He loved all of his legacy. See, sometimes a lot of times I say, let's stop being so churchy and just be real. See, because a lot of things that we do and say, and a lot of formalities, that's system teaching. But we had an honest moment with the Most High, and it appears, and again, I'm not saying this as if I have my relationship with him is no more special than yours. So I don't want you to think I'm trying to project like I know the mind of God. I think that's blasphemous. And it is not my intent to even infer to you that, he and I, this sort of thing is done among humans, not with the creator of heaven and earth. But when Israel called his sons He did this with them, especially with his firstborn, Reuben. He did this with them, but he initially started off when he was talking to Reuben. He said, "You're the son of my firstborn, the son of my strength. Man, I was something when you came into existence." And then he told him, you're not going to be running things long. There's going to be a change. Because he told him he was kind of unstable. And a lot of times, our parents will have a moment with us, and some stuff we like to hear, and some stuff we don't particularly enjoy hearing, but if we're wise, we'll listen and we'll comply. And so I believe all of his sons, they took the good, they took the bad, and they took the ugly. And folks, when I say let's work on being less churchy, I'm not throwing stones at what was set up. Because what we had and how most of us came up and what most of us were taught, it was a lot better than nothing. And there was a lot of accurate information that was taught, but there were some things that were purposely misrepresented. And a lot of us made decisions in life on information that we thought was accurate, only to find out later that it wasn't. And these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is how their father spoke to them and blessed them, giving each his own individual blessing. But he also gave them each their own individual correction. Now, what he shared with them didn't have to come to pass if they worked on the areas that he spoke to them about. And it's the same way in our lives. With a very serious series of days and events and stuff, you get to a time where you might not be speaking scripture to somebody, but if someone's been devastated, they almost need a human touch. That's why we embrace people. Sometimes you don't even say a word. You just depending on the nature of your relationship. Because some of us may not feel as some of us may not feel as close to where we maybe can embrace one another. We should be able to, but if we're being real and not so churchy, see, because a churchy type embrace is not the same. In fact, it's almost like a practiced exercise. And when life really slaps you upside the head, you might find yourself feeling a little ill if you get a lot of church jargon and rhetoric. Because at a time like that, I'm speaking for myself, it sounds so empty. It sounds so hollow. And depending on the vessel it's coming from, because see, some of us know one another very well. See, because some of us may conversate not only just here, but outside of here. Some of us might have gone to a ball game together. Some of us might have gone fishing. Some of us might have gone shopping. Some of us might have gone out to eat together. Those are times where you get to know the person. Those are times that we should not be so casual about. See, we know one another's actions when we get in here. But again, are we having a real moment? Or are we, again, a part of this grand performance that we've learned over the years? Then he charged them as follows: I am to be gathered by my people. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite. He gave his instructions. You see, you know, in this entire series about Joseph and his brothers, and I coined it family dynamics. And, you know, we would read in the scriptures the different accounts of things that happen. But saints, all of us have to realize that some of the same things are happening in our families. That some of the same things are happening in our families. How are we faring? Those of us that say we're after Torah, we're on search for a Torah-filled life, as best as we can understand the instructions. I'm not trying to, again, be churchy, but I keep throwing out Torah. Do we follow his instruction? How well do we follow his instruction? Because, see, sometimes, saints, even in the correction, sometimes he's saying things to us, about us, and depending on which of his children it is, some he's so kind and loving and he still gets his message across, but it's sure really, really nice. And then some of us, we may not get we didn't get what Job got, but for some of us, he'll say, okay, put your big boy pants on. You talk a lot of smack. Now, he might not say that to Francis. But he might say something different, or he may say it a different way to me. And I'm sure by him being the perfect judge, he knows a knucklehead from an obedient daughter. So we get what's coming to us based on how well we're following the instructions. That's what Israel or Jacob was doing. But I want you to know we're gonna get into 50 a little bit too. But I just want to stay here because it says when Jacob had finished charging his sons. See, he you know, when you when you lose your parent, I was listening to Ruby. Man, that's wonderful. My last remaining aunt, she's 90. I think she may be 91 or 92. And you know, to hear Ruby, and I kind of can understand when she said, you know, all my life, basically, I'm paraphrasing, Mom's been there, and you know, now the medical staff is saying, family, we've done all we can do. And she said something else key that was right in line with what we're studying today. She said her hope is that they can remain a family unit and that there'll be peace. And see, that should have resonated with every one of us. Because the truth is, I mean, you know, sitting here and you all look so angelic, you would think all of your situations are just wonderful. And that's not a slight, that's not a whatever. It's not. Don't take it that way. Please. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. What I'm saying to us saints is life happens 24/7. Life as we know it happens 24/7. And I, you know, I too, sis, I stand with you that some things that you shared with me, which I'm not going to divulge, because then you'll never tell me another thing. But just like Joseph's brothers saw him in a certain light, it's possible your siblings may see you in a light, and this is conjecture on my part. I'm not saying, thus saith the Lord. Okay? This is Barry talking to, okay. But sis, you may be the go-to person in this thing. You may have to be the steadying force in her homegoing. You know, it's not always, doesn't always have to be the oldest or what, you know, because I know in family dynamics, somebody will get up and I'm gonna move off of your family, but I'm just saying in situations, sometimes somebody will get up and say, well, I'm the oldest and, you know, it's gotta go this way and, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm not talking about your family. Okay. You know, at the end of the day, each one of us here, we can steady our family ship. And I'm not just talking about the family that reside in your four walls. I'm talking about your entire family. Again, now, I'm not saying that you to get at a family reunion and say, I've been anointed by my pastor. No, that's not, see, that's more that church stuff we get mixed up. System stuff. When I say don't be so churchy, just be real. See, in being real is when we're studying and we're walking out his instructions, our character gets cleaned up. The more we practice, the cleaner we get. See? And in the cleansing, it is easier to repent. It is easier to chuck whatever it is you think about yourself. It's easier to take that pride and put it under wraps. It's easier to actually look at yourself in the mirror without the rose-colored glasses. and realize that, well, yes, I'm an unfinished project, but I'm going to keep coming. I'm keep coming. I'm keep coming. I'm going to keep coming. When his sons were charged, it's up to each individual person to either do what their father asked them to do or not do. And of course, we'll read later on. But I'm talking about this thing because I thought, I said, man, wow, things are coming together. You see, my goddaughter was 40 years old. And she would make her grandparents, her parents, of course they're devastated. But they can be proud of the fact that this young lady who did not have a Walt Disney existence chose to live a quality life. Everything didn't go smoothly for this young lady. Actually, in none of the families' situations, in none of ours, none of us have lived a bed of roses life. None of us have. But you hear me a lot talking about quality people in your lives. I worked with her mother, and in 91 when I moved back here, broke. I had $1,300. Y'all know the story. I had $1,300 left to my name. I had sold my house. Pastor had flown in. He drove Sherry's car back, and I drove the truck and had my car attached to the back of a U-Haul. And I remember my mother was saying, don't tire your father out, but you know, he missed you all so. We drove 27 hours. And I'm like, man. I said, Pop, and I'm going to get to the story, but I remember what she said, and I said, well, Pop, when you want to pull over, just hit your lights. He ain't never hit the lights. And so you know me, I'm always, well, if he can do it, you know, I can do it, so I'm just driving. Well, we did. We stopped at a rest stop in North Carolina. And I think he may have rested, and I'm not joking, maybe he rested 45 minutes, and then he was ready to go because he wanted to get back to you all. I'll repent about some stuff later on another day. But I met, her mother and I, we worked together in the insurance industry. And like I said, things, at the time I got there and started working at that company, she was going through some stuff in her life. And they had 3 daughters together, and I consider them, all three of them, my goddaughters. I got 7, and now I'm gonna pick up the son-in-law of her oldest daughter, because he's just been a pillar through this thing. But what I'm getting to is this lady lived life first class. This lady that came out of a situation that was not Hollywood written. In fact, well, all three of the young ladies would make anybody proud. And she called the medical staff together, and she called for her family, her mom and her 2 sisters and her brother-in-law together, and she told the doctor, she asked him, she said, listen, all of this that you're doing, am I going to fully recover? Because she had become paralyzed on her left side. She could feel, but she couldn't move. And when she fell, now keep in mind, she'd been dealing with the cancer for over a year. Okay? I'm trying to set this thing. And she would do well, and then there'd be a setback. She would do well, then there'd be a setback. Well, a couple of weeks ago, she had fallen. And I think they estimated she had been laying there for about 5 hours. And I thank God for technology, because she was eventually able to call out, I think, Siri or something, to call the ambulance. That's what actually happened. She had an Apple Watch, and her mother had told her keep that on her, and for some reason she didn't have it on at that time. But I'm going somewhere with this. When they got her to the hospital and everything, and her mother got there, she was apologizing to her mother, because had she had that thing on her wrist or whatever, they could have gotten to her sooner. But they've been running tests, and they were having her do some things, and but she called the medical staff together, and she just asked them point blank, and I'm paraphrasing, give it to me straight. And so I guess they gave their prognosis, and she said, listen, she said, I don't want to live like this. And of course, that just tore, from what I understand, the doctors was crying, and of course, her grandmother, it tore the family up. And again, I would go visit her, and she went on Wednesday morning about between 2 and 3, or maybe even 4 in the morning. But I was there Tuesday evening, and I stayed till about 9, and they would only let one member stay overnight in the room with her. So I was giving her mom a lift back home. And, we were working with her. She wanted us to, you had to straighten her arm out for her, and then sometimes she wanted you to work with her leg, on one hand on her foot and one on her leg. We didn't know what that was doing, but she had me on one leg and her mother on the other leg. And she was fussing at her mother like, you ain't doing this right. Do this like Mr. Green. And that's, they've always, since they were little girls, they were always Mr. Green, Mr. Green. But this thing with when Jacob had said all he had to say, and it said he propped his feet up, and he went on. When we were first ready to leave, she was like, well, no, not right now. And then the pain, I guess, began to, because they gave her, they were giving her morphine, and they even gave her some fentanyl. I was like, wow. So when they administered some more, then we left so that her sister her sister was there, but we had to leave because that was hospital regulation. But she said, Mr. Green? And I said, yes, dear. And she said, I love you. And I said, Jessica, I love you too. And her other sister was saying, well, I'll see you in the morning. And she said, as clear as all get up, she said to her older sister, no, you won't. I won't be here. She was not afraid. And this young lady, I'm telling you, man, the young fellas, they missed out. I don't know what they're looking for. I'm like, my goodness. And I don't want to say too much because I am going to say this. When she was a senior in high school, she wanted to go to either the prom or maybe the winter carnival, one of those events. And I had my other godson that lived in Texas. He was down here for training at the time it was called Fort Lee. And I brought him here to the church, and he was the godson that I drove his mother when she had him, and I was the one that drove him to the hospital to be delivered. Because I worked with his father. His father was a loss control rep. I was in underwriting, and we had it worked out that while he was out inspecting buildings, if I got a call, I could leave, and they let me leave, of course, and I went to pick her up, and it's a lot to it, but I'll make it short. I got her to the hospital, and, I could hear her in the back because I guess they were waiting to do something, and I called my boy, and I said, hey, man, he coming, or it's coming, because I didn't know what it was going to be, But I could hear her. I could hear Daryl's wife. She was in pain. So I'd go up to the desk like I can do something. And I'm like, isn't there something that can be done? And the lady looked at me like, kind of like, you ain't the father, go back and sit down. And I'm saying this because, see, folks, again, I've shared with you, I take being a godparent seriously. See, it's more to it than standing up in a suit and holding a baby, and the pastor say a few words, and then you get the baby back to the people, and you hope he ain't throw up on your new suit. See, that's the kind of stuff church teach, that kind of stuff. And I knew it was responsible. It's a responsible thing. When people ask you that, it's serious. It's more than something cute to do. I'm so tired of cute church stuff. I'm about ready to regurgitate. But her youngest sister ended up staying with her, and I laughed because of her three daughters. Jessica was the most like me. She really was. And again, respecting boundaries. She had a father. Okay? So even as a godparent, I knew not to cross boundaries. And that's in every situation that someone asks me to be a godparent. Another one of my godchildren came down here, and some of you met him when we were working on the lights, to get the lights going back right. In fact, when my boy Doc left, his son Irvin called me and he said, listen, I know you and my dad were doing some things together because we had formed a business and we had a business relationship. But he said, I'd like to, he wanted to invest in some properties. And I told him, I said, Irvin, I was proud that he wanted to do that. But I told him, I said, man, I just don't have that kind of energy now. So I encouraged him. I said, look, get with some guys that you really know, and you all get out there and make it happen. And it's a wonderful feeling, even as a godparent, when you see young people getting it done. And this young lady, I thought I had a lot of shoes. And I gave away, a couple of months ago, I gave away about 30 pair. And they're telling me, because they're getting ready, they're going to be selling their house and everything, but Joanne told me, because my house looks like a janitorial service warehouse. She said when they begin, because she had everything neat as a pin. In fact, they didn't like to go over to her house because she really ain't want you sitting on her stuff. And all her stuff looked like something out of Home and Gardens. And folks, listen. I know. We want our loved ones. Of course, we want our loved ones to serve the Lord and everything, and we want them to do great things. But a lot of the great things that we thought were great things may not necessarily be. Just be real with your loved ones. Just be. If you're Papa, be Papa. If you're Grandpa, be Grandpa. If you're a sibling, be a good sibling. Be real with them. The youngest one that was staying with her, they were a little concerned and said, well, she might have, because see, her mother kept trying to tell her, you're not in control of this. And Jessica is the type of person, she'll let you say what you have to say. And she's always very respectful with her mother and father, and always with me. I mean, you know, I'm the godparent. I mean, you know, most of the kids like the godparent because they know that's the one that's going to always be, you know. But Joanne would say, well, you don't control this. You don't control this. And listen, she never flinched. She just said, well, this I am in control of. And her sister said that Jessica said to her, my breathing is getting more and more shallow. And she told her sister that she loved her. And her sister said that the whole family loved her. When my father left here, he was by himself. When my mother left here, we were en route to the hospital. And by the time we got there, she had departed. And I told, and of course, we went back up because the hospital has procedures or whatever that they have to do. So I was in one of my buildings and I got a call. And her mother said that she had passed and that she needed to get to the hospital. So I left the building and I went and picked her up, and we got over there and she was just laying there, and I stepped back because I wasn't trying to, you know, some people say, well, you know, you're a pastor. You just listen. When it comes to situations in life, always respect boundaries. Please. Sometimes we do more harm than good thinking we're to take charge of a situation. Oh, I got one. If I blow my nose, you're going to be embarrassed. Folks, yes, we're instructed to follow his instructions, but in the following of the instructions, be real with people. Be real. We got enough fake going on. We really do. And I'm not just talking about in the church. I'm talking about outside the doors. When people suffer loss, they need sincerity, not a bunch of politically correct talk. Israel's sons, remember now, everybody had kind of made up. So we thought, because see, this is something else that was key. Joseph forgave his brothers. And remember, and I told you, I know you're tired of hearing this, he told them, now when you go back to get my dad, don't argue among yourselves. There was a reason he told them not to argue among themselves. Now, the brothers, and we're obviously not going to get a chance to get in it, but the brothers believed him, and they went and they told their father that Joseph was alive, and the father was happy. But remember, the father knew what the brothers had told him, how Joseph met his demise. So in the telling them that he was alive, they also had to, some kind of way, yeah, well, we kind of lied to you. And why am I saying this? Because, see, in our families, have we really forgiven one another? Did we really squash it? Or are we just waiting until we get mad again and bring it up again? I'm talking about our families now, not the people in the scriptures. See, we need to get to a place where we really are naked and open. And see, the beauty of it is you can be naked and open and don't nobody really know what's going on but the one that made you. See, this should be a place where you can be honest. See, we're going to need each other for real, folks, more than just one of those air kisses. Love you. Keep that. Don't blow your breath in my face. Keep that. Listen, if you don't mean it, don't say it, don't do it. Those brothers, of course they were relieved that he forgave them, but he didn't forget what they put him through. And what I'm saying sometimes is, even in our family dynamics, sometimes some things are said or some things are done, and if you're going to forgive, forgive. And again, sometimes you got to be the bigger person. Sometimes you might be owed an apology. But do you really have to have it? See, some of our siblings or some of our parents or whatever may never admit they were wrong. Let it go. And something else, and I'm going to close with this, and we'll pick it up the next time I have the pleasure of coming before you. A lot of times in discussing matters concerning the church, I remember pastor used to always let all the staff do all the whining and all the complaining and all the whatever, because, see, a lot of us thought we were always right. And I remember he cracked everybody's face by one statement. And he said, listen, it's more important that you be righteous more than right. Because, see, usually, I'm going to tell you where a lot of us are. We are right about stuff that don't matter, don't make a hill of beans. In the overall scheme of life, it ain't worth somebody passing gas. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Hang-ups that we got, let's get rid of them, man. They're holding us back. If somebody have an honest conversation with you, yeah, your feelings might get hurt a little bit, but stop giving in to, well, he hurt my feelings. Okay, you got some more. I think they're going to have services for her, I think on Tuesday. And I just said, again, and I'm only using myself as an example. I'm not promoting anything. In fact, some of this I didn't even want streamed. But that's another story too. But I said to them, and I detest churchiness. But I said, listen, I can do as much or as little. Well, if you don't want me to do anything, that's fine. I said, but I'm coming. And I meant that. Saints, what am I saying? I'm saying people really want you to be real. Listen, even the people that you don't like, even the people that don't like you, even some of them will say, he's not my cup of tea, but he's pretty genuine. See, a lot of folk, they know a fake or a phony. They may never say anything to you. They may never say anything to you. But I was talking with a wise gentleman, and I'm paraphrasing. Folks, what we're going to aspire to do around here is we're going to be honest and forthright with one another. We may have to practice and practice and practice like Allen Iverson. I know Allen Iverson don't like to practice, but we're going to practice and practice and practice until our hearts really are knitted together. That when I hurt, you hurt. When you hurt, I hurt. And we're going to use wisdom as to how we help one another. We're not going to just go blindly charging in, giving orders and, hey, no, we're going to, listen, when we don't know what to do, we're going to sit on our hands. That's what my mother used to tell me all the time. Bird, go somewhere and sit down. If you don't know what to do, sit on your hands. Because see, even having good intentions, you can still make a mess of things. And I'm not fussing. I'm really not. This is just a crazy time. Emotions are, they getting their licks back, because I know a lot of you say, well, you know, some of you may be enjoying this because, yeah, my emotions are really kicking my derriere. You know, but I tell you, it's a blessing having had the privilege of watching somebody grow up, and I mean live a good quality of life, and never got off focus. Do you know she, with all of her accomplishments, she tried to prepare for everything. Most things she was able to obtain, but it never went to her head. She never said, I don't want. In fact, she had even made some moves for that, but it just never came to fruition. I just want to round up some of the young guys and ask them, man, how in the world you let something like this get by? I mean, she, above all of what she accomplished, she wanted to be a wife. She wanted to be a helpmeet. And there's a schism between us in our community. And, you know, we're saying things to each other like, I don't need you and you don't need me. Well, the one that put it all together, he set it up so that we got to work with each other. I'm glad that's off. I'm not going to hold you. I thank you all for coming. And I have John. I've got a box on that last row, and it's got. No, I want you to give out to the ladies.